Hey everyone, I'm going to go over the rune chart, and one of the interesting things you'll see here is that it's very similar to Caspa in price structure. However, I think there's more a negative divergence, and I think that has to do with rune's use case. So Thorchain is a network that facilitates native asset settlement between Bitcoin, Ethereum, BNB, and yada yada, some other chains. So money's going to be pulled out, or depending on how much crypto is being used, that settlement layer is going to be going to exasperate or have more volatility. And for that reason, Rune has more volatility than Caspa. Caspa is more of a Bitcoin limited asset that's, I think, going to compete with Bitcoin, but it has other use cases as well. But it's a limited asset. There's a limited amount of Caspa where there is more Rune, and that's going to be dependent on its settlement layer. So you'll notice that it looks very similar. The price action looks very similar to Caspa. We're in a large ascending parallel channel that we've been respecting for the most part until recently. We had 3 touches to the upside before we started down this short-term descending parallel channel, and we tested this resistance area 1, 2, and a third time. And then the fourth time we punched right through it. We tested that area as resistance and followed the descending parallel channel. We tried to punch up above it again and got rejected, and now we're testing that large parallel channel as resistance again. So that is on the daily. I'm going to pull up the simple moving averages. And just like with Caspa, we are basically on a nice edge here, testing the 200-day as support while we're below other averages on the daily chart. So that's not a great look for Rune, but very similar to other alts as far as price action. So we'll take a look at the fib chart here. And we are in, obviously, if for most that have a sharp eye, we're in an area of retracement. Not as far as, I think Caspa came closer down to the golden pocket. Here we're staying above the 0.382, which is a good sign. And maybe we continue to consolidate here as we move along. We'll find out where our support and demand zones are. And it looks like the next significant demand zone on the daily anyways is down here. So if we do break away from this consolidation area and we continue with this descending parallel channel, and Bitcoin becomes more bearish, the traditional markets become more bearish, this is where I would expect our final zone of support is. And if we fail that, we're probably coming down to the 2.5 or lower, which is unfortunate. However, I don't expect that to happen, but we'll have to see as time goes by. Looking at the 4-hour, we get a better picture of what's going on. The market cipher indicator not showing a direction one way or the other. Very low but negative MFI and momentum. And we kind of see that here. Now with Caspa, you can just see with this general direction of momentum, it's at the downside, or here it is. With Rune, it's generally to the downside. I believe with Caspa, we had some better momentum. And again, that probably has to do with its use case, tokenomics, and community. So that's not looking great, and very weak. Oops. while it is a red on the histogram here, it's not as significant of a drop as it was prior back in the first half of April. Now we probably could get some divergence here again and continue to the downside. But I think a lot of investors, traders, and crypto enthusiasts are really just waiting out to see what the traditional markets are doing, digesting this new information as far as the GDP and PCE. And I do believe that we're probably going into a time frame where we're going to enter a recessionary portion of this year. And the Fed has initially decided to take back their projected 3 rate cuts. And they, yesterday or the day before, they actually said they might not have any rate cuts. And now that we have a surprise with the GDP from 2.6 to about 1.5 or whatever it was, 80-point difference in expectation, it's showing a slowdown in the market and potentially stagflationary condition, which is the worst, where you have high inflation, a lack of growth, and the next step would be a large unemployment number, which we don't necessarily have. But again, when you look at the unemployment numbers and break it down, they were all part-time jobs. And generally, when you do a part-time job, you have multiple part-time jobs in order to make ends meet. And I think that's what's actually occurring. So we could have a situation where the Fed actually comes back and does a surprise rate cut. And that might be on the table again. And again, with a high liquidity environment, a lot of the money will find its way into crypto. Gonna look at the 1 hour. See what kind of market patterns we have. And again, this auto chart AI found a very good pattern with this rising wedge, and it came pretty close to its price target. But this is pretty much invalid at this point. This is already played out. Elliott wave is sort of helpful here, but not so much. Bring in our exponential moving averages, our Ichimoku. Get rid of our support demand zones. And we'll get rid of the patterns as well. So this is going to be similar for almost every alt. So if you have a question about an alt, it probably looks like this, like every other alt chart. Now, we are below the cloud and we're testing it as resistance, but the lagging span is within the price action. So we might be in an area again where we may want to reverse, but we are technically, now it really depends on how you draw these lines. My line is showing this as resistance at this point. But with the fib chart, we've basically completed the retracement into the general area where the retracement should occur. And do have some positives on the 1 hour when it comes to the momentum. So stochastic is rising up, MFI is rising up. We are still below 50 or right at the 50 mark for the RSI. And we are touching, or we are creating some green histogram bars, as well as a divergence to the upside when it comes to the MACD. So would I make a buy or a sell here? Again, most likely not. But we can take a look at the way I do my swing trading. And this one's a little more tricky as there's a lot more volatility, as you can see here, between the red and the blue line, the red being the 200 exponential moving average and the blue line being the 50 exponential moving average. It was a negative trend. It was clear as day, obviously. And now we have some indecision occurring, some consolidation and indecision. So we were positive, and then again we had that negative surprise in the fundamentals of the economy with the GDP. So now we're negative. We retested into the 50-day moving average, rejected off the 200-day moving average. So this is another perfect setup for a short. If you look down at the market cipher indicator, we have a red dot on top of a momentum wave with red MFI, and it meets our indications for a short. So I would take a short here, probably take that right there as my stop loss, and we'll do a 1 to 1.5 risk to reward. Yeah, whatever. We got about 1.5 or 1 to 1.52, and we would have made a profit, and that would have been a 2.5% profit on your short if I had taken it. Again, this wasn't at my computer, so that was again exactly at 6 o'clock, which was the same issue we had with Caspa. So that is my analysis for RUNE. If you have any questions or want me to look at a different chart, just let me know. And I hope you have a great day. Thanks. Bye.